Today we're looking at the Vicksburg campaign. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to subscribe and take a look at the questions down in the description. Also, don't forget to check out dailybellringer.com where you'll find more resources that go with many of the Bellringer videos. After the major Union victory at Shiloh in early April of 1862, the Union Army moved forward to capture the Confederate railroad hub at Corinth, Mississippi. From late April until the end of May 1862, the Union laid siege to Corinth and forced the city to surrender. After the fall of Corinth, the Union troops under the command of Ulysses S Grant now turned their attention to taking control of the Mississippi River. But standing in their way was the town of Vicksburg, Mississippi. Today I am here at the Vicksburg National Battlefield where much of the action took place. Vicksburg was a heavily fortified Confederate stronghold under the command of General John Pemberton, who had been a friend of Grant's before the war. Vicksburg had heavy guns that kept Union gunships from being able to pass and kept any boats from coming up from the south. President Lincoln said about the town, "Vicksburg is the key. The war can never be brought to a close until that key is in our pocket." Grant was confident he could capture the city, but the problem was the approach. Grant did not want to approach the city directly on the Mississippi River because that was where the strongest Confederate defenses were located. So from January to March of 1863, Grant carried out what became known as Grant's Bayou Campaign, in which the Union Army attempted to build different canals and waterways to carry troops close enough to Vicksburg to strike. All of these efforts were failures, but Grant was not one to ever give up. So the Union developed a new, riskier plan where the Union Army would march down the west side of the Mississippi River to south of Vicksburg and cross the Mississippi River there, then attack Vicksburg from the southeastern side. Grant felt defenses on this side of the city would be weaker. Problem was the Army would need gunships and troop transports to cross the river, so that meant Union gunships would have to get past the Confederate big guns at Vicksburg. On the night of April 16, 1863, 7 Union gunboats and 3 empty troop transports approached Vicksburg on the river. They attempted to make the run with no lights and sound, hoping that no one would see them, but the Confederates did spot them and they opened fire. The Union boats were able to make it past the city successfully, and a few nights later, 6 more boats made the run and only 1 boat was sunk in the river. Now Grant had his boats and his men were ready to cross, but Grant felt he needed a diversion so that the Confederates did not know he was crossing with such a huge army of over 70,000 soldiers. So he ordered Colonel Benjamin Grierson and about 1,700 horse troopers, some disguised in Confederate uniforms, to ride through Mississippi wreaking havoc. Grierson and his men rode over 600 miles, tearing up railroads, freeing enslaved people, burning Confederate warehouses, and basically just causing problems for the Confederates. The diversion worked, as General Pemberton at Vicksburg was occupied trying to catch up with the Union raiders, while Grant and his army were able to successfully cross the Mississippi River on April 29th and April 30th. Once across, Grant embarked on a 17-day march, beating the Confederates back towards Vicksburg. Grant won battle after battle: May 1st at Port Gibson, May 12th, Raymond, May 14th, Jackson, May 16th at Champion Hill, and May 17th at Big Black River. Grant now moved on to the city of Vicksburg itself and attempted a direct assault, first on May 19th and then on May 22nd. Both assaults were repulsed by the Confederates, and the Union suffered significant casualties. With this, Grant decided to lay siege to the city, cutting off all supplies to the city while at the same time continuing to shell the city with Union artillery. The Union forces began digging trenches, inching closer and closer to the city. The people of Vicksburg were reduced to living in caves, and with no food, they were forced to eat things like horses, cats, dogs, and even rats. Grant surrounded the city with over 75,000 troops, while the Confederates defending the city numbered only around 33,000. After 47 days, the Confederates could not hold out any longer. On July 3rd of 1863, General Pemberton met with Grant and surrendered Vicksburg. The next morning, on July 4th, Confederates marched out of their trenches and stacked their guns as Union troops marched victoriously into the city. This was a major Union victory, with casualties for the Union at around 4,900, while casualties, and casualties remembered include killed, wounded, or captured, for the Confederates numbered around 32,000, with over 29,000 Confederates surrendering. The victory was a major turning point in the war, as it accomplished one major goal of the Anaconda Plan that had been established at the beginning of the war. The Union now had control of the Mississippi River and had split the Confederacy in two, with Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas now being cut off. President Lincoln was absolutely ecstatic with the news of the fall of Vicksburg. He said, "The Father of Waters again goes unvexed to the sea." Ulysses S. Grant, after Vicksburg, now became the premier commander for the Union, and it would not be long before Grant would be called to the Eastern Theater of the war to take on Robert E. Lee in the Army of Northern Virginia. So with that, hopefully you learned something, and thanks for watching.